Hi guys, thanks so much for joining me today. We are here with Sarah Kleiner, and she is from Carnivore Yogi on Instagram, and she has been blowing it up with her great insights into carnivore. So we're just so excited that she's here, and she's going to share a little bit about her story and what keeps her motivated, and hopefully it'll help you to go on in your carnivore journey with lots of success. So welcome, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. I really appreciate it.
So we met on Instagram, and you live in Atlanta, which is not very far from me.
Yeah.
In Nashville, but we're in different time zones. But so I've been following you for a while, and I know you have a daughter, and you have a husband and a dog, and I know you're into yoga.
Yeah.
And you shared with me some stuff about your journey, and so just let other people know, what kind of led you to this point of getting into carnivore, and some of the challenges you had in the past, and maybe they can take something from that and apply it to their own life.
Yeah, so I am a yoga teacher. I've been practicing yoga for about 11 years and teaching for 7 years. And I've always kind of struggled with my weight. I was like 220 pounds in high school. And then when I had my daughter, I was like 235 pounds. So I've struggled with my weight pretty much all my life. And after I had my daughter and kind of found yoga, I did Weight Watchers and was like calorie counting and just lost all the weight and got really, really skinny. That was like 10 years ago. But I was always hungry, and I was always working out a lot. And so the weight eventually kind of crept back on. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be a yoga teacher, so I'm going to go vegan, of course, because that's what you think you have to do when you become a yoga teacher. So I was vegan for a number of years, and I was really, really skinny. And I started getting sick a lot and injured a lot. So it was one of my yoga teachers who suggested to me that I might want to start eating meat again. Was very anemic, very B vitamin deficient. And again, like I had joint pain all of the time. I mean, it was crazy. And I'm like trying to teach people yoga, but I'm up there not even able to demonstrate half of the poses that I'm doing, just because I had so much pain in my joints. So, it was probably about 4 years ago I started eating some chicken and egg whites just to kind of, get it back in my body. And then I noticed weight started coming back on. When I started trying to eat, quote unquote normal again, I started gaining weight. And I think I did a lot of damage to myself hormonally when I took meat away for all those years. I took away all animal products. I tried to supplement. A lot of people say supplementation, but it didn't work. I was spending a lot of money on supplements, and they just weren't working for me.
You mean like supplements to make up for being vegan?
Yeah. A lot of the B vitamins, methylfolate, all those things. And I was taking them religiously. I was soaking everything. I was just trying to do everything right, but my body was just, it was just not working out. So I started eating animal foods again, and lots of vegetables because I watched Dr. Walls. I don't know if you're familiar with her at all, Dr. Terry Walls. We watched her YouTube video, and we're like, okay, we got to start doing everything green smoothie, like everything, tons of vegetables, So we were like, 6 to 12 servings of vegetables per day and a little bit of meat. That was kind of how I shifted out of veganism into I don't really want to call it a standard American diet, but I just thought that you had to eat a ton of vegetables. So years of that, my hormones got really, really jacked up. I started gaining weight, which was really irritating to me because, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm into kind of health and fitness, and I feel like I'm eating like the right things. I'm eating tons of vegetables, and my hormones just continue to kind of go downhill. And so it was November of last year. I had a personal trainer. I had a nutritionist. I was trying to do everything the right way. I was probably spending a couple $1,000s a month between the personal trainer and the nutritionist. And I was still gaining weight and I was exhausted. And so I had a friend of mine who, she actually couldn't even take me on as a client. She's a functional medicine doctor, but she was like, look, I've been doing this carnivore diet for the last 6 months, and I feel amazing. So I'm just going to go ahead and suggest to you, maybe you should try this. Stop working out, stop going to yoga at 5 a.m. and just try to start adding protein and try carnivore and just let me know how it goes. You can send me questions. I can't take you on as a patient because I'm kind of full right now, but just try it out. Let's stay in touch. So at that point I was like, fine, I'll do anything. I'm already paying all this money for people who are professionals to tell me what to do. And it's getting worse. I had put on a lot of weight and was just exhausted. And then I went to the gynecologist and got a bunch of blood work done, and it was suboptimal, low testosterone, low cortisol, just, PCOS, like just insulin resistant, very, very suboptimal lab work. So I said, fine, I'm just going to scrap everything I'm doing because it's obviously not working and just switch over to carnivore. And probably within just a couple of weeks, my inflammation just went way down. I started noticing tons of amazing benefits. When I was eating all the vegetables, my stomach was like pregnant all the time. And there were nights, this is kind of gross, but there were nights I would just go sleep on the couch because I had gas that was so horrible. But I was keeping my husband awake the whole night with and I was awake the whole night. So I was like, I'll just go to the couch, because I was trying to force feed myself these vegetables because I thought it was healthy, So when I started carnivore, gone, no more. My stomach flattened out. And I stopped having that horrible, horrible stomach pain, gas, bloating, all that stuff was just gone right away. And I haven't had any of that since I started carnivore at all. I started the very, very first week of January. And now it's middle of June here, and I haven't had any of that. I don't think I've farted in 6 months. It's kind of, I thought that was just a normal thing people did, but.
No, I mean, I totally relate. I forgot almost how much I used to have gas too from all the broccoli and cauliflower and all the salads and and I just thought I had I don't know, I just thought it was normal or something.
Yeah.
But my husband would always be like, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
It's I'm healthy.
Right. That's what I thought. And my husband never had any sisters, and his mom is really reserved. So he just didn't think of women in that way. And so yeah. But apparently it was just because my body was really reacting to all those vegetables. It just, we're so brainwashed that eat your greens, eat your vegetables. It's going to bring you health. And for me, it was the opposite. My hormones were very unhappy. And just switching over to carnivore, like I said, within the first couple of weeks, I got relief with my stomach. And that was worth everything. Because I just thought, well, I just had, I thought it was because I was getting older. I just turned 40 a couple days ago. And I thought, well, I'm getting into my later 30s, almost 40. So I guess this is just part of aging, is to have this bloated belly all the time,
Yeah. And I think, you see that in the media all the time too. People saying, oh, I just have this bread belly or whatever.
Yeah.
You think it's normal too. Now, did you have like fast digestion or slow digestion, or was it regular or what?
I'm not really sure. I think it was probably on the slow side when I was eating all those vegetables. I just couldn't, my body just couldn't process or digest everything I was giving it, you know, and we are so brainwashed into thinking that you just throw everything into a blender, turn it on, and then drink it. And, you know, if anything, I think if people are going to eat vegetables, they should be cooked, you know, because you're to eat that much raw food. For me, it just didn't, it was not good. It was not helpful.
I mean, I did cook most of my vegetables because I love cooking like bone broth and soup. I made a lot of soup, and that was like mostly what I ate. But it didn't make it any better. I mean, it was maybe a little better, but it wasn't. It still caused problems. So, but yeah, that's what like Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride says. You know, cook them all really, really well. And you know, when I was doing the I was doing pretty much exactly what you were doing. I mean, I did Weight Watchers and then I did paleo, and I was eating just, you know, and she says, what, 9 cups of veggies or something?
9 to 12 cups of veggies a day. Yeah.
Like, okay. And you think, well, okay, well, I want to be, you know, I have an autoimmune disease. I don't know if you do, but I was like, I want to be, you know, I got to get my sulfur or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure maybe, I mean, I think it's better than standard American diet for sure. And then, but I think that, you know, I couldn't handle all that roughage.
Oh, absolutely not. And I didn't really enjoy it either. It was kind of like forcing myself to eat it, you know, and then I just kept being more and more tired. And I'd hear people say, I eat all these vegetables and I feel amazing and I feel wonderful. And I'm like, it's just not my experience.
Yeah, you know? I did feel full, but that was just more like, because we're so ingrained. I mean, in Weight Watchers, as you know, it's just fill up your plate. You know, it's like volumetrics. Just eat. You know, once you eat, it makes it look like you have more if you have all this lettuce or whatever vegetable. So then you're like, and then you have your little couple bites of meat, and so it like makes you feel like you get more to eat. And like, you remember the 1 point soup, and it has like, or no, 0 point soup, and it's like 27 vegetables in tomato sauce, and so it's like no fat, and that kind of stuff is just like fill you up. And I think as women, we're just taught that kind of idea. So we're like, okay, well, if we just stuff myself with all this watery veggies,
right,
that's full enough to like make it to the next meal.
Right. And that's the whole thing I just have absolutely loved about carnivore is it's been like really healing around my whole idea of like food and eating and just being a woman and like restricting myself constantly. Like I am just over that whole restriction thing. Because when I went on Weight Watchers, I did get really skinny. And when I was vegan, I was really skinny, but I was like always hungry, always waiting for the next meal, like obsessed with food. It was like all I thought about all the time is like, what am I going to eat next? And what time do I get to eat? And then I'm like looking at the clock, like, all right, well, I need to wait another 2 hours before I eat this meal. And it was just like, now it's like, oh, okay, it's all right, I'll eat now and then I'll eat later. And I can go long periods of time without even thinking about food, it's like my body and my brain have the nutrients that they need. And I'm not constantly like watching the clock to say, oh, I get to eat again. Or, you know, just that whole mental kind of gymnastics that you're doing around mealtime and meals is gone.
Yeah, that's the best. I mean, now I know you have experimented with doing some fasting. Now, are you still doing that, or is that working for you, or you're not now? You're eating more, and tell us about that.
Yeah, so I feel like in the carnivore space, there are a lot of people who fast, and a lot of even like the larger accounts on Instagram, people fast. And I think that works for a lot of people. I think it works well for a lot of people. For me, I've done some fasting. I've done 72-hour fasts. I've done 60. I've done 24 hours. So I've experimented with it for sure. And what I've experienced with fasting is, number one, whatever weight that I lost, it never stayed off. And number two, I didn't really gain a ton of weight, but it was like I would lose like a bunch of weight, but then it would kind of come back on and even out, as though I had never really fasted. And then it messed with my head, because I have a history. Obviously, if you're 220 pounds in high school and like 235 pounds when you have your baby, like I have a history of like binge eating disorder and restricting myself. And just when I was fasting, it kind of woke up those like old demons, that I had to deal with when I was like restricting and that whole cycle. And I just, at this point where I'm at in carnivore, I'm kind of like, I don't really have the urge to fast right now. I really don't even want to mess with that. Any kind of fasting I do is like accidental, if I'm just like, I'm not going to eat anymore today because I'm full and it's, 2:00. Okay, cool. But if I was to get hungry at 6 or 7 o'clock, then I'd eat a little bit more, where I'm at, just maybe it's my age, maybe it's just where I'm at in my kind of healing journey is I'm not going to force myself to try to fast. Cause for me, I don't want to mess with my head. I just don't like that. It's not worth it for me.
That's exactly how I feel. No SHIT that not eating makes you lose weight. Like I tried that a million times. Like I know that, but like it doesn't mean that it's gonna. It's almost like a contest. Who can go the longest? I don't know. Maybe some people can do it, and maybe it's okay for some people. But like you, I have exactly all of that baggage around, and how many years I did keep myself on a low calorie diet. And so, yeah, every single time, what I found was if I would restrict myself, then I would eat like double whenever I started to eat again. And I would be like more obsessive about food. And so any benefit I gained, it just wasn't worth it because I would be so obsessive that it wasn't helpful at all. So I think that, of course you're going to lose weight if you don't eat.
Right, exactly.
That's the goal. And maybe some people are doing it for other reasons, like, longevity or something like that. And, and I think also certain people can do it better, like men, but like sometimes my husband doesn't eat breakfast and he doesn't eat lunch till like 2, and because he's just busy or something. But he doesn't have all this mental chatter about it, it's just like, oh, I was busy. Yeah.
And the thing that I have been noticing just over the last, like I've been experimenting more and more with not fasting and with eating breakfast, which I know a lot of carnivores don't eat breakfast. I heard Nutrition with Judy and Dr. Fit and Fab. I kind of listened to their talk about hormones the other day. Because I'm really, like I said, before I started carnivore, I had suboptimal labs, low cortisol, low testosterone. And one thing that they were talking about is having a cycle that's on time and regular, And when I was doing fasting and skipping breakfast and having coffee first, my cycle was all over the place. It was either late or it didn't come. So the last couple of months, I've been eating breakfast. I haven't been forcing myself to fast. I haven't been doing these longer fasts, and my cycle's been on time and totally normal. And I haven't had any PMS at all. No, not any really, little cramping, okay, I know it's coming, but not excruciating, doubled over in pain like I was before I started carnivore. So I think there's something to that as women. I think our bodies are different than men when we look at carnivore and we look at fasting. So for me, just eating that breakfast before I have any coffee and not really forcing fasting my cycle just got really regular, and I got rid of a lot of the pain I was having around it. So there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of, especially younger girls, you know, I mean, this is what happens when you experiment when you're younger years with all these diets and veganism and all this stuff. You end up in your 40s and you're all jacked up. So, you know, this is a lesson for younger girls who might be wanting to go vegan or, you know, fast or because there's a cascade of hormones that you cannot, it's like a hierarchy of needs. Your body is not going to reproduce when it thinks it's starving, or, you know, so it's just not, it's not a priority. If you think you're dying, if your body thinks it's dying, it's not going to be like, well, let's have a baby now. It's like, no, it's going to be worried about making fuel or something from, or, you know, drawing things out of your bones so that it can survive. So, I mean, I don't know what people, you know, are thinking. I was a vegetarian for a while, and I was doing a lot of tofu and stuff, but I never did lose my period, but I lost my thyroid. So no, I lost my thyroid functioning for a while. So that was probably a pretty big signal there. So
yeah.
So tell us your kind of normal day of eating. What do you eat and what times and stuff like that?
So it's kind of evolved over the months that I've done this. It's changed and evolved. Right now, I'm making sure that I eat breakfast in the morning. I'll wake up. My daughter wakes me up early as God knows, 5:30 some mornings. I usually do get up around 6. I'll wait a couple hours and just kind of sip on some warm water, get her stuff ready for the day, and then I'll eat breakfast around 8. Usually it's some kind of a red meat. I really love leftover ribeye, like cold leftover ribeye sliced up. It's like, oh, so amazing.
You don't heat it up?
No, I just love cold ribeye, or I know. My husband thinks it's weird, but he thinks I'm insane anyway, so that's fine. Like, just add another like log to the fire of like me being a complete weirdo. But I usually do definitely some kind of red meat. Sometimes I will do a little salmon roe, eggs, bacon, but definitely the red meat. And then what I've been doing lately, I haven't really been hungry for lunch, so I'll do that 8 a.m. breakfast, and then I'll do a pretty early dinner, like 3 or 4. I might do a couple of ribeyes, some kind of a steak for sure. And then that's usually it for me for the day. That's what I've been doing. And it's been working pretty well.
Yeah, that sounds pretty close to what I do. I eat about 10, and then I eat about, I mean, if I'm on my own, I'll eat about 5. But if I wait for anybody else to eat with me, then it's maybe a little later. But
yeah.
If I like an earlier dinner, so I can have more time to digest it and everything.
Yeah, sleep better if I have it earlier. Like it's, yeah.
But I tried to do one meal, but I feel like I don't like eating that much at one time. Like I can only really eat about 1 pound per meal, like comfortably. And then I'm like, so I would have to eat more in order to make it all the way to the next day. I would have to eat like double that, which feels terrible.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just doesn't, I don't get the one meal a day because I feel like I would be stuffing myself.
Yeah.
But if I only eat 1 pound, then I will get hungry like at 9 or 10 at night and be like, okay, now I'm hungry, but it's too late to eat. And what do I do now? You know?
Right.
So I mean, I think it's good to just kind of play around with it, but you know, don't get so locked into what somebody else doing. Just do what feels best for you. And I mean, for me, it's like 1 pound in the morning and 1 pound in the early evening, and that feels like kind of the best. And you think you eat on average?
My morning meat is a little bit less. It's probably like half a pound, but again, sometimes I'll add eggs, sometimes I'll add bacon. I cook like a ton of bacon for my daughter. She eats bacon for breakfast, like tons of it. So if she doesn't notice, I'll take a couple of her pieces, add it on. And then the evening meal is usually probably like pound and a half, so it evens out to about 2 pounds a day, I would say, of meat. Is my main, the main thing I eat is the red meat. And then in the morning, I have now, the thing that I think has helped also kind of regulate my cycle is that I don't drink any coffee until after I've eaten. Because I'm, that big rush of cortisol when you wake up, what I used to do was just pour a bunch of coffee on it and not eat anything till like noon or 1 o'clock. And I would feel kind of like jittery, and it was just too much adrenaline, cortisol for my body to really process. Some people could do that. I think they're okay. But for me, it just, no.
No, I mean, I drink decaf. That's how lame I am. So that's about how much, stimulation I can take.
Yeah.
Because I used to drink regular, but I would get a huge energy crash and I would get super addicted and I had terrible headaches and it was just a big mess. So, and whenever I had my health breakdown in like 2010, I just cut the caffeine and it just helped a lot. So, and it was really hard to get off of it. So I was like, I'm not going back, Yeah. Well, so when you first started and like now even, what do you do if you have cravings or sugar cravings or PMS cravings or,
I'm not someone who's like, oh, I started eating carnivore and I was perfect. I've been perfect for the last number of months because I haven't been, those first couple of months, those PMS cravings would get really crazy. And I would make the mistake of having a spoonful of almond butter, which would lead to a Lara bar, which would lead to this, which would, so I never went on like a full out binge, but I would eat, non-carnivore foods and then I would pay for it. And it was, we thought I was going to have to go to the hospital back in February when I was having one of those craving times. I had some almond butter, I had Lara bars, and then it felt like someone was stabbing me right through my forehead.
Oh my gosh.
The migraine headache I got. And that was, I think, just from, okay, you've been eating carnivore, for the last month. And then you add in I think it was probably the almonds that my body was probably already allergic to, sensitive to, but I hadn't had them in so long. So I had this big reaction. So no more of those. But so those mistakes I made probably the first couple months coming into carnivore, because I would have these reactions where it was like bad migraine headache or just feeling like bloated and puffy for days on end. I've experimented a little bit. The first like 2 days of my cycle, having some like in-season fruit just to see how my body handles it. And that's been okay. I haven't had any horrible reactions from that. But I feel like the longer I stay on carnivore, the less I deal with the cravings. And if I stay away from like the stevia sweetened beverages or diet sodas, I feel like I have to screw up in order to remember this. Like I had a diet soda a couple weeks ago. And then it started like, oh, the next day I'll have one, and the next day I'll have one. And then all of a sudden I'm like sitting on my couch fantasizing about ice cream, and it's like, oh, this is why you're fantasizing about ice cream, because you allowed yourself to have a Diet Coke, so like, got to cut that out. So I haven't done this like perfectly by any regards. I've made my mistakes, but, I think for me, dealing with cravings is just eating more fat. That helps a lot. Yeah. And just trying to be careful,
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, cutting the sweetened, the stevia and the xylitol and all that erythritol and all that stuff I used to eat on keto, it helped so much by not having that on carnivore with cravings. And then I noticed like on Christmas and my birthday, they're right next to each other. And so it's a really hard time to eat really perfectly, you know, because there's all this stuff. And I ate a couple of times like a keto cheesecake, you know, but even that was, you know, pretty close to, except for the sweetener on, you know, on carnivore. But just that little bit of, I would just eat one piece. I wasn't like eating the whole pan or whatever, but it would make all night. I was like thinking about more of it, you know. It's like that, just that little bit. It's like, so I mean, I would recognize that and be like, you know what, I don't want that again, you know, like, and I would get back on track because I would, I didn't want to go down that road again, you know, of just like wanting all these treats and fat bombs and Lily's bars and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that was, and what I would often do, I mean, maybe you do this too, like if, especially during my period, I might want to have more food or something, but I might not recognize it as that. I might recognize it as a sweet craving, but I would just eat another burger or something. I would just eat another piece of meat or something. And that would like instantly like stop the because you're so full that you're just like, what? I can't even eat anything. I don't even care. Like, but giving yourself permission to like eat more on those days when you're having a hard time. Like I took a class that was really challenging for like 2 weeks. And under those times I ate 3 meals a day because I was like, you know, I don't want any more stress. And if this is going to make me feel a little more calm, then I'm going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner because it's going to make me feel a little bit more grounded. So, you know, and that's fine, you know, and I felt fine and I didn't gain any weight. So I was like,
I think that's important to say, like in the times where I have said, you know what, I'm really just hungry this week, or I'm having cravings, I'm going to eat some more fat, I'm going to eat some more meat, I haven't gained weight. And that's a big healing thing that's happened for me around eating this way. Is just like, I've always had this fear just because I've been overweight in my life, really overweight, of like, if I eat, I'm going to get fat. If I eat, I'm going to get fat. And I've had with carnivore, that hasn't happened. You know, if I want to eat more, it's meat and my body needs it. My body takes it and uses it, and it doesn't end up in the wrong places. You know, if it was like, I'm going to sit down and eat a chocolate cake, yeah, I'm going to gain some weight, but I'm going to have an extra hamburger patty or another half of a ribeye. Like my body takes that and uses those nutrients in a positive way, and it doesn't end up on the scale.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of, it's almost like you're stepping out on a wire or something. It takes like some faith.
Yeah, it's scary. It's really scary. It's really scary, you know, but so far so good, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it is amazing, like, because especially with Hashimoto's, I mean, you can gain 10 pounds overnight and your weight you can just be, you almost feel like a balloon or something. I mean, it's just like up, down, up, down. And so to be able to, you know, have my weight stay within a 2 pound or something for months at a time is like, wow, that's amazing. And I'm eating, you know, 1.25 ribeyes and, you know, something like that. And it's like, you think, okay, and you're, you know, hunger is the last thing on your mind. So that's pretty freeing, I think. And now I know you just recently went to a yoga retreat in Thailand, in Bali, and you said it was a vegan retreat or vegetarian retreat. And so how did you deal with that? And, you know, tell us a little bit more about the whole yoga culture around meat and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I went to Bali for a meditation retreat. It's a type of meditation that I practice, and it was like an advanced meditation retreat. And it was vegetarian. And, you know, I understand now after doing the practice for a week why there's no coffee. And I think they're just misinformed about the meat thing. It was basically that we're meditating, 6 to 8 hours a day, and you don't want to eat something that's difficult to digest because your body is kind of releasing a ton of stress and your metabolism goes way down when you're basically sitting around meditating all day. What I did is I talked to the retreat leader before I went, and I was like, look, I'm not eating vegetables. I'm not eating fruit. What can you do for me? And they were able to cook eggs and cheese for me. So it was basically like I went on a friggin' egg fast for a week. And I brought some beef jerky with me, and I had like 1 package of jerky a day. But my metabolism was like so super low that I wasn't starving. And, the reason why they do that, again, is because they're kind of misinformed. For me now, if I eat meat, it doesn't take me like a long time to digest it. What was taking me a long time to digest was the vegetables, And it was funny, I'm on retreat with these people, and a lot of them are getting stomach issues day 2, day 3, because they're not used to eating beans and vegetables as their meal plan. And I was just kind of sitting there like, yep. Y'all are eating vegetables all week. Of course your stomach hurts. Of course you don't feel good, because I'm just going to sit here, eat my eggs, and I'll be fine. My digestion was fine. But after being in that experience, I understand for that retreat why it is that way, because you just don't want to mess with your digestion. Now, the whole yoga thing and the whole yoga culture is a completely, I think, different animal, because I think that we're kind of brainwashed into, you're yogi, you're vegan, you don't eat meat, you don't cause violence, you don't cause harm. It's all about ahimsa, which is what we call in yoga, and not causing harm. And that's kind of what I was into when I first started doing yoga. I was like, okay, I want to, it was from a good place. And I think that's what a lot of yoga people have, a good place in their heart where they're like, I don't want to harm animals. I want to be loved to everyone. And, you're just misinformed. You're misinformed that veganism in a lot of ways is way more harmful to our environment than if you are to go to a farm and source grass-fed meat. That it's way more harmful. You're killing, thousands of rodents and insects and destroying hundreds of square miles with your vegan treats, where
birds and deer and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So there's this whole thing in yoga called ahimsa, which means non-harming, non-violence. It is one of like the precepts of yoga. And so the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, and I think I mentioned this, the reason I started eating meat again after being vegan for a while is that my hair started falling out. I was ridiculously thin. If you follow my account on Instagram, every now and then on like Transformation Tuesday, instead of posting like a weight loss photo, I'll post an old picture of me when I was a vegan and my arms were like that big around and my face was all sunken in. It was actually one of my yoga teachers that was like, you are sick. Like, you are not well. You have no muscle tone. You're always injured. Your hair is falling out. You don't look good. I really think you should consider eating meat because veganism's not working for you. And if you want to think really about ahimsa, non-harming, non-violence over the big picture, you're not going to be able to be of service to your family. You're not going to be able to be of service to your students. You're not going to be able to teach if you continue to get sick this way and deficient this way. He was like, it's kind of ridiculous. And it was hard for me at first because I was like, I really felt like I'm doing the right thing, but I feel like crap all the time. So I started off really slow. I was like on vacation with my husband and I made him get me like a chicken burrito, and I kind of picked out a few pieces of chicken, and it was hard to like get over that mental hurdle after you haven't had meat or any animal products for a number of years to start eating it again. But almost right away I started feeling better, and so I couldn't deny the fact that I was feeling better and that I was able to be a better yoga teacher, a better mom, all of those things. So yeah, and I get attacked by vegans on my Instagram account, and I just mostly just don't even answer back. I just kind of block and delete because I just feel like is such a loaded conversation, you know?
Yeah, well, it's almost like politics. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
the other person's already made up their mind. You're not going to change their mind until they discover for themselves that it's not working, you know, or that they get sick and realize, okay, I mean, that's what it was for me when my thyroid started, you know, and I couldn't get out of bed. I was like, oh, something's not working that I'm doing. So, you know, I'm ready to change, because I was just like you. I was a trainer and I couldn't even stand up for when I was doing my training sessions, you know. So I was like, okay, I'm holding up this wall that looks really fit, you know.
Right.
And like I had no energy. So I was ready and it was one of the ladies who helped me when I was really sick. She was a Buddhist, and she like lived in an ashram, and
wow.
and she told me, she said, you have to eat meat. So she was like, you need to start eating. She said, stop eating so many carbs and eat more meat. And I was like, okay, if you say so, like, I'll do it, you know. No problem.
Ayurvedic medicine, which is like kind of the science, sister science to yoga. It's like they prescribe you Ayurvedic, you know, for your dosha, for your body. Actually, people don't know this, but some cures for a lot of ailments is to eat meat in Ayurvedic medicine, which is the science of yoga.
Never hear about that part.
Well, you don't hear about that, right? It's like, it's not all black and white, you know, it's not that cut and dry. So
it's always, you always just hear about the cold foods and the hot foods and the soups and smoothies and stuff.
No.
All I ever heard about. I didn't know there was a meat part of Ayurveda.
Yeah, it's a cure for some ailments. You know, if you really study it, that's actually part of it.
That's cool. So speaking of, you know, food quality, what have you decided about that? And, you know, some people say it doesn't make any difference. And, you know, what do you try to do?
Well, I really do try to eat a lot more grass-fed, and I try to be conscious of where my meat comes from. I probably end up spending more money than, you know, than I'd like to on meat, but I spend a lot less money now than I did when I was buying kombucha and kale chips and, you know, spending money on sprouted nuts, and like, so it evens out for me. And, you know, we're kind of looking into right now splitting a cow with someone, like a grass-fed cow, and kind of keeping that in our freezer. So I am trying to be conscious of the meat that I buy. I do sometimes just go to Publix and buy what's there out of convenience. I would say probably like 80% of what I eat is the grass-fed, you know, locally sourced meat, because I'm in Atlanta and it's really easy to shop local farms. We've got a lot. I'm in Georgia. You know, we've got some farms down here. It's out there. It's not that hard to get. And then I get butcher box and a few places that ship to me that are grass fed. So I try to be conscious of that.
Oh yeah. I mean, sounds exactly like me. I go to the farmer's market, but sometimes I get organic stuff from Costco or something. And then also sometimes the thing is, like, what people don't maybe realize is, and I'm sure you feel this, like when you are hungry, like you want that meat so bad, and you don't care what it costs, and you don't care like you just want it right now, like. And so you're just like, I need it now. And so you just buy. I mean, I try to always have like my freezer full of stuff, but
same here.
You know, you just, sometimes you just have to have it right then, and whatever you can get is what you can get, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we just bought a cow and we bought a freezer, and so we have a freezer now in our garage. So, and we got a quarter cow. My husband split it with some of his friends. So that's been, we had a lot of the cuts so far. And it's been fun to have that. I had the T-bone the other day, and but it was an interesting experience.
I saw he was cutting it up on your Instagram. So I'm like, if we eat a cow, it's going to come where it's already going to be cut up. Like my husband is not the type of person who would ever do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't eat another steak. Can you please, like last night I made him fish. And I had two ribeyes and he had a little piece of salmon. I was like, okay. But he's not carnivore, so he actually gets tired of eating steak. I have not had that experience thus far. I'm like, I don't get tired of eating steak. I love steak.
I don't think I had that experience before I was carnivore, but I've always loved like red meat and stuff. I mean, like me and my dad would go to steakhouses when I was a little kid. So, I mean, I always have.
We'd go to Ryan's Steakhouse, which is no longer. That was my favorite. I call it the Big R. I would go there as a little kid. I've always loved steak as well.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get, well, of course, my stepmom was like anti-meat and anti-fat. So we would kind of go, that was like our thing,
Yeah.
My stepmom would be there with the noodles and the marinara and the just, fat-free food and stuff. I mean, but, that's what we thought was healthy back then,
Right. And now it's like the low fat craze has turned into the meat free craze. And it's like just switched, we're watching this like Beyond Meat thing happen. And I'm just like, oh my God, facepalm, because you guys realize this is just the low fat craze has just turned into this like meat free Monday. And like, yeah, it's interesting, how this kind of programming that's going on, how it's influencing our food supply.
Well, that's why what we're doing is important to get the word out.
Agreed.
Before, we have a huge like fertility crisis. I mean, The Handmaid's Tale is not too far off if you're adding in this fake meat and, you're going to have people who just cannot reproduce. So we're definitely in trouble if we don't start eating the food that we're intended to eat from nature, which is not, Soylent Green. So,
no.
So yeah, I guess that's pretty much all. And is there anything else you want to share with people that are watching?
I think that there's just a lot of freedom in this way of eating. I think I've kind of said that already, but just for me as somebody who has struggled with eating disorders and my weight for, most of my life, this is the first time in my life and mentally where I just feel clear and I feel happy. I've also struggled, we didn't really talk about it, with a lot of depression, anxiety, been on and off antidepressants since I was like 14. And I'm not on any medications right now at all. No sleep medication, no antidepressants, no anxiety meds. And I haven't felt like I've needed them since I've started carnivore. Just my brain is really happy. And I think that is something that's important for people to know as well. If you're struggling with anxiety, depression, obviously go to therapy, get some help outside of your diet, but the diet can really, really play a huge role in your mental health as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know if I noticed that was a big issue for you in the past, but I mean, I have people in my family that have struggled with depression, and especially my mother, my real mother. I've gotten her not all the way to carnivore, but she eats more paleo-ish, and just that change in her has been a huge thing. Not to eat sugar and bread, and so I've definitely seen it in my own life, because that keeps her a lot more even keeled and got her off a lot of her medications and stuff. But like you said, it's a really slow process, and it's a healing process, and it's definitely not something to do overnight or not without help or supervision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's so great that you share about that, because I know so many people are struggling, and then there's not a lot of people don't talk about it, because I think in our culture we're just always supposed to act like, I mean, we have this fake Instagram world where we're supposed to act like everything is going great, and we're always on vacation, and we're always we're always thin, and our husbands are always happy with us, and our kids are kissing us and wearing cute outfits, and they never get dirty, and and it's like, if you see that all the time, of course you're going to be depressed if you think that that's what really life is like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I mean, I had a friend recently who, she lost her husband to suicide, and it was like totally out of the blue, and that just shows. And I mean, it strikes me because all I ever saw was these perfectly coiffed photos of vacations and all this stuff that it's like, okay, but that's not real. And so you have to I don't know, you just have to be careful and take care of yourself. I mean, it's a daily struggle. That's what I don't think people understand. It's an inside job.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe you do this, you realize this too. It's like, you don't just wake up and feel awesome every single day. Like, I mean, there's so much stuff I have to do to myself just so I'm not in a bad mood. Like, I have to walk outside. I have to get sunshine. I have to drink water. I have to sleep good. I have to take a bath. I have to have my essential oils. I have to, have my steak or eggs or whatever. And, if I don't do every single one of those things, I'm off balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think people just think you're supposed to wake up and you're like,
perfect. Yeah, no, it does not work that way at all. Definitely not.
And if you're eating, especially if you're eating sugar and all that stuff, you've got an uphill battle.
Yeah.
To make yourself, I mean, that was, I was listening to, I think it was the HBO podcast the other day, and was Ann Childers, and she's a psychiatrist. Did you listen to that?
I heard that one. Yeah.
And she was talking about the, all the psychiatric stuff, and the change, and just that she would track people's blood sugar, and the blood sugar.
Yes, that was fascinating.
They were having the mood swings exactly the same times as the blood sugar, and it was like, but nobody recognizes that as a. But I know, especially as a teenager, I was super all over the place with my moods. Yeah. And people just don't get that connection,
No, they really don't.
So, well, people should all go follow you. And so it's carnivore.yogi on Instagram. So at carnivore.yogi.
Yes.
And, what's new coming up for you? Are you working on anything, or?
Right now I'm just kind of having summer, my daughter's home, and not a whole lot right now. I've got a special needs parent support group that I have been working on, that I have a Facebook group for. And I've kind of been focusing a lot more on that, and just, continuing to just do carnivore lifestyle and keep improving, getting healthier, all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Now, have you done anything with your daughter with carnivore, or?
I've just really upped her meat a lot. That's one thing I've done, and kind of cut back on vegetables. I haven't been forcing her to eat vegetables, and she doesn't like them. So that's been working well. I already had her on like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. I've always been really careful with her diet, but now I'm kind of slowly but surely just upping the fats, upping the protein, giving her a lot of protein at every meal. And she's really responded well to it, for sure.
That's great. And people can always direct message you if they have questions about any of the things we talked about today. And And I know this video will help a lot of people, so I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
And I'll put her information in the show notes and down below. So thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.